All righty. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission. It's being held in the Commissioner Meeting Room in the Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Room 270, Cortez, Colorado. We're going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance and then followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Don, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yep.
Commissioner Saunders is absent. Commissioner Taylor?
Present.
Commissioner Lynch?
Here.
Commissioner Neergaard?
Here.
Also present is Don Haley and Jane Duncan of the County Planning Department. Please silence or turn off your cell phones during the meeting. If you do need to take a call, please step outside to take the call. Planning and Zoning Commission minutes will be reviewed for January's meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I've got some corrections.
Okay.
I have two corrections to point out. They're both on the first page. My vote is recorded as an aye. My vote was actually present, which is the same as abstain.
Okay.
And then that would make the results below where it says motion carried and the vote was unanimous. It was actually not unanimous. It was 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstaining.
Okay. Thank you for the correction. All right. Anybody else have anything? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to amend the corrections as noted.
Okay. And can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Farian?
Aye.
Commissioner Neergaard?
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez? Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
Okay, motion was carried, vote was unanimous. All right, the Montezuma County Planning Commission welcomes you to this meeting. This board is comprised of members who are tasked to make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. We are not the decision makers. We encourage public comment after each permit. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced at the discretion of the Planning Commission to allow members of the public the opportunity to address their thoughts and concerns. When addressing the commission, please come up to the podium. State your name and address for record prior to providing your comments. Comments to individual applicants are not permitted. Participants may not yield their time to others. Chairman Farian and myself will be voting tonight. And can I have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Here.
Commissioner Taylor?
Present.
Commissioner Lynch?
Here.
Commissioner Neergaard?
Okay. All right, so number 1, notice is hereby given that Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision application submitted by Travis and, I'm going to butcher this, Kacia White, Kacia, on property located at 38645 Highway 160, Mancos, Colorado, consisting of 9.94 acres. more or less, located north of Highway 160, situated in Section 36, Township 36 North, Range 14 West, New Mexico Prime Meridian. This is a public hearing. Was the public notice published?
Yes, sir.
Was evidence of letters to adjoining neighbors and mineral owners submitted?
Yes, sir.
And was the sign posted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Applicants, if you want to come forward. Sorry for the mispronunciation.
You'll need to turn on those mics.
Okay. Can we have planning department findings?
Sure. Mr. and Mrs. White are proposing to subdivide their property into one 3-acre more or less parcel and one 6.94 acre more or less parcel, creating a 2-lot moderate subdivision. The surrounding properties consist of agricultural, residential, along with Simbec geosynthetic liners across the highway. The Hogan Trading Post is to the northeast, and Mud Creek Gravel Pit is to the north. There is an existing driveway access off of Highway 160 that has been in use since the construction of the existing residence in 1963. If the new parcel has its own access, the applicants have been informed that they would have to consult with CDOT about doing a permit. All infrastructure is in, and everything else is okay.
Thank you. All right. Do you guys have anything you would like to add?
No, sir.
All right. Planning department, you guys have, or commission, do you have anything you guys want to discuss?
You guys made application to CDOT for the driveway, correct?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Nope.
Good luck with that.
I know. We know.
Given CDOT, are you guys going to be willing to do a right-of-way agreement
Yes,
if
sir.
they don't pan out?
Yes, sir.
I know that's not the ultimate way to go, but
Took away my mobile, that's what I was gonna ask. Exactly the same thing. If there's any kind of a guarantee for CDOT, which there isn't, then how would you allow them to come through, which is gonna be an easement across your property?
Yes, sir.
Fair enough.
The access is the one in the corner, right? That's in the top corner there. Yeah, okay. That's the entrance for both, right? That's yours as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We split that, yeah, driveway.
gotcha. Just wanted to make sure.
My question is, who's using the road right now that's coming through that property?
Which one?
Um,
The entry off the highway?
actually, Yeah, the one that's coming in off the highway. I actually live really close to you guys, and I've noticed that someone's plowed a road through that lot and is coming in and out on the highway.
Oh, that's the property next to us.
That's the property
Yeah,
next to you.
it's on the opposite, like
Oh,
on the
yes.
other
Sorry,
side.
my
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah, that's not our property. That's the one next to us.
I just
That's what
noticed the fence line.
That's what you're talking
Yeah.
There you go,
Yeah,
yep.
yep.
That's the one that has,
That's,
Okay, that's next.
and they have
Yeah.
a trailer parked on the backside, and they kind of have a farm up front.
And a mailbox tipped over.
Mhm.
Oh, I know your property. I thought about purchasing it.
We kind of lucked out, I won't lie.
okay. Anything else? All right. Then we will move on to public comment. Seeing none. We will bring it back to the commission. And I will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to recommend to the county Board of Commissioners to approve the proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision application submitted by Travis and Kacia White. Based on the following, the proposed use is in conformity with the code. The proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other properties in the area, and public utilities and services are available or can be made available to support consistent uses with the proposed zoning. And again, the only condition I might put on is that there is a CDOT driveway approval and/or an easement from the property owners.
Second that.
Okay, motion was seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call a vote, please.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch,
Aye.
Commissioner Neergard.
Aye.
Motion was carried, vote was unanimous. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys very much, appreciate you.
All right. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here?
Commissioner Taylor,
Present?
Commissioner Lynch,
Here.
Commissioner Neergard.
Here.
All right. Number 2, notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed amendment application to a high-impact permit number 562 submitted by Josh and Gina Boren on property located 15865 Highway 145, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 5.02 acres, more or less, situated in Section 30, Township 37 North, Range 15 West, New Mexico Prime Meridian. This is a public hearing. Was the public notice published?
Yes, sir?
Was evidence of letters to adjoining neighbors and mineral owners submitted?
Yes, sir?
Was the sign posted?
Yes, sir?
All right. You guys want to come forward? All right. Can we have department findings, please, Jane?
Sure. Mr. and Mrs. Boren are requesting to amend the high-impact permit that they already have due to the addition of 3 new storage buildings that were constructed a few years ago. And now they are coming into compliance with their high-impact permit and with the county.
Sounds good.
That's it.
You guys have anything else to add? No? Okay. Commission, do we have any discussion items?
I wanted to bring up the fire suppression with new added buildings. There's enough that you have there for fire suppression. And that is with recommendations or agreement with the fire department or who?
Yeah, these buildings have been there for 10 years or more.
Okay, and
And if I may,
15 years, that would have been for the entire group that we see, or just the 4?
The original 4.
With the original 4. Now with the additional 3, is there enough? Or is it adequate?
I believe so. I mean, there's the same access to the building.
So there's been no confirmation then from the fire department or anything that?
if I may, Commissioner Hernandez, Wildfire Adaptive Partnership has stated that the property is in a moderate risk zone, but however, there does not appear to be any significant vegetation on or immediately around the properties. So therefore, they would recommend a waiver in this particular case.
Okay, for wildlife, or wild?
Well, for home and
Oh, okay,
wildfire,
okay.
yes.
Okay. Okay, and then I also see that there's boat and RV storage, that's good.
And in the application, it indicates that there were 3 buildings added. Are those the south buildings?
The west.
Okay.
The 3 on the back end of the property.
So that farthest west is a building. It's not a,
In the picture, it's not completed, but it's completed.
Okay. And the reason for this application is because of the setback rule?
No, they had the original 4 through the high impact permit.
So additional buildings?
The additional buildings, anything over, it's like 1,200 square feet, right, Don? Any additional?
Anything more than a 10% increase on a
Or
high
10%
impact
increase,
permit.
that's what it was.
Oh,
And building size requires an amendment to the high impact.
Okay. So I see that one of the planning department notes is that the setback for the buildings does not meet the threshold standard, and I'm assuming that's on the west side only?
Also, I may add that for the next month's meeting, they will be applying for a subdivision amendment in order to, because this Boren Storage is in a single lot development subdivision, and they will be amending the subdivision to increase the size so that they will meet the setbacks greater than the setbacks required. Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was headed. So you are planning to resurvey the property so the setback is met? That's excellent.
So no variance needed, which is good, yeah, for you guys. Plus, it's convenient, you know, and everything around it, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably unique, isn't it? That they own the property around it, so that's an alternative.
Sometimes, I mean, it happens more often than you might think it does.
Huh.
Just, you know, there's a lot of people that own large sections of land, so they're subdivided from 20, 30 years ago or whatever it is.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay. Then I will call for public comment. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. And if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I'll do it again. Make a motion to recommend to the county commissioners to approve the proposed amendment application to high impact permit number 562 submitted by Josh and Gina Boren based on the following. The proposed use is in conformity with the code. The proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other property in the area, and public utilities and services are available or can be made available to support uses consistent with the proposed zoning.
Second.
Okay. Was that Commissioner Taylor? Yeah, okay. Any further discussion on the motion?
Do you have any conditions, Commissioner Hernandez?
I don't know if we could put a condition on that. This comes back to us next meeting.
That could be a condition
increase
that
in the lot
the,
size.
that the single lot development
Yeah.
be amended.
Yeah, that would be it.
Okay. All right. Don, if we could call vote, please.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor, Commissioner Lynch,
Aye.
Commissioner Nergard.
Motion was carried, vote was unanimous. Thank you guys very much. And then we need to make a motion to continue the third one, correct?
Yeah, but you need to read
Do I
the
need to
public
read it?
notice and then
Okay.
we'll Need to
Okay.
do the motion.
All right, number 3, notice is hereby given that Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed high-impact permit application submitted by Silvina Guerrero Moore and Jeremy Moore on property located at 7134 Road 41, Mancos, Colorado, consisting of 3.71 acres, more or less, located south of Highway 160, east of Road 41, situated in Section 4, Township 35 North, Range 13 West, New Mexico Prime Meridian. And this one's being continued.
Correct, to
Yes,
June
the-
8th,
yeah.
as
To
requested
June.
by the applicant.
Okay. So I will ask for a motion of continuance.
I'll make a motion to continue.
One second.
Okay.
Who's second?
Ted?
Ted?
Okay. And we can call vote on that, please.
Commissioner Farian?
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
Commissioner Neergard?
Okay, motion was carried, vote was unanimous. And will be carried to next month, right? Or June?
June 8th.
June, okay. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Here?
Commissioner Taylor?
Present.
Commissioner Lynch?
Here.
Commissioner Neergard?
Here.
All right. After the fact applications. The fun stuff.
The fun stuff.
Did everybody get a chance to read the emails sent out?
I read one of them, but that was all I received.
Okay. Eddie, did you get a chance to read them?
I did not.
Okay.
I've been out of town at funerals for the
Oh,
last
okay.
month.
Sorry,
It's been a roll of it, so I
Yeah.
have not had much time.
that's rough.
My
So
apologies.
I can read my proposal.
I have it right here, Zach, if you need it.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Just hand it over to Zach.
All right, so Commissioner Hernandez originally proposed something very similar in nature for after-the-fact applications. I made the proposal this month specific to PUD after-the-fact applications. So I'll just read the proposal. PUD after-the-fact applications is currently being brought into compliance where there is a change to the property that then involves the Planning and Zoning Commission. This change results in Don telling the applicant that they are out of compliance, and therefore the applicants must go through the application process in order to become compliant with the land use code. My proposal is the following. The county will open a one-year window and publicly announce the following. Properties that do not comply with the maximum of 2 living dwellings stated in the land use code and have not been through the planning and zoning process in order to become compliant as a PUD. This is who this is addressed to. The actions that will be taken within the 1-year time frame. So properties that have more than 2 living dwellings will have to apply for the PUD as stated in the land use code. The applicant will go through the regular process and will present to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Once the regular meeting process commences, the Planning and Zoning Commission will vote. There is no guarantee that there will be approval of after-the-fact applications. If denied, the applicant will have to remove the additional living dwellings in order to become compliant or petition to the county commissioners to meet with them. After the 1-year time frame, if it is discovered that a property is not in compliance with the land use code having to do with PUDs, the property owner will have to pay 4 times the original cost and fees of the PUD application, at which time the applicant will go through the same process as they would have within the 1-year timeframe. And same goes there. There are no guarantees that they're getting, that they're gonna get approved. And to be clear, just because the landowner is paying the fees through this process, it doesn't mean they're automatically approved. It's just, that's part of becoming compliant. If they don't get approved for whatever reason, they still have the chance to petition the county commissioners.
Yeah, each case would be, have extenuating circumstances to it that you couldn't blanket cover.
Exactly.
And also to be clear, with the definition of a residence, in these instances is, would be a house, a tiny home, a shed, barn, shop. If it's connected to a septic system, it is a residence and can be lived in.
Which is the definition of living dwelling within the,
Yes,
within
living
the
dwelling.
land use code, right?
Yes,
So
a dwelling structure.
how does a tiny home fit that?
They're hooked to septic.
Is that required?
Mhm.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Look it up, sure.
Now, if they're,
Even a motorhome.
you know, the campers essentially fit that.
RVs, motorhomes,
RVs,
yurts,
Yes.
all that stuff fits that.
teepees.
Yes,
If they're hooked
anything
up
that
to
can
a
be lived in
septic,
and
if
is
they're,
connected.
I mean, you can have one on your property, right? But if it's hooked up to a septic, it therefore is constituted as a living dwelling.
Septic and plumbing, yes.
So that was an initial proposal based off of Commissioner Hernandez's original proposal. It doesn't have to be a 1-year time frame. It can be shorter if we think that's appropriate. But I do think a grace period is absolutely something we have to give. They are, albeit they may not be in compliance currently and should do so, but if we're changing the fee structure as a penalty, in the nature of penalty, we need to give them grace period.
And I think a 1 year is sufficient, being not everybody is, here 12 months out of the year.
Yep.
Is there a timeline that the commissioners have given to come back to them with the recommendation?
No, we weren't given a timeline, but it's been a few months now, so.
Is there a chance that we can dig up some data to kind of support where we're headed with our recommendation? I mean, you guys.
It was all brought about by the commissioners because of after the fact PUDs.
Yeah, I understand, but most of you have experience with this, and you have a feel, just by your experience, what the conditions are, how many times it happens, and so on and so forth. But I'm walking in cold. I'm not suggesting this on my behalf. I'm suggesting this on the behalf of being able to justify and substantiate a recommendation that's made to the commissioners. And what I'm interested in is seeing some data from the county over a certain time period that would show, that would reveal that how this will impact people who are applying and help make a good decision. I come from an engineering background. I like to make decisions based on data rather than feeling. So I'm asking, is it possible to gather some data that we can use as a hard foundation to make a...
So if there were properties that we knew were non-compliant, I would have already sent them a letter.
No, I'm not talking about what's not compliant. I'm talking about what has the history been with after the fact PUDs. can we go back and look at some after-the-fact PUDs for last year and see, you know, how many out of all the applications were after-the-fact PUDs? How much was paid in fees for those PUDs? If they had this penalty, how much would have been paid by those PUDs? Something to look at that gives an idea of how much of an impact this will have, knowing that, you know, what you do one year is not going to guarantee what you do the next year. And if this goes out, there's going to be a time when you perhaps might be flooded with people putting in applications because they're trying to get in before the time, before the grace period runs out. I understand there's those kinds of variables, but is there any way that we can look at the past, the history of these after-the-fact PUDs and get something solid to base a justification on?
So like a case study is what it sounds like.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
We've got that readily available for the last 3 years. First off, it depends on what the commissioners really want to see. This all came about because of the after-the-fact PUDs that we brought to them. So I don't think we need to reiterate what we took to them, because that's what instigated this. This all has to go to a community public hearing for any changes to the land use code. So we are going to present what wording you guys want, and then it'll be up to the commissioners to take it from there. And then it'll have to be refined as to wording for the land use code to move forward.
I don't think at this point, the proposal that I have is sufficient, because I do think we need to call out specific instances where somebody sold the property and sold it under false pretenses, or, you know, get down to the nitty-gritty of that. Does that fall under us, or does that fall under the county attorney for those things?
How are we supposed to, I mean, is this gonna happen when the people say sell the property? Are trying to sell their property, is that when we find out about them? I mean, how do
Or
I-
when their neighbor tells on them.
Right, I mean, I understand that, but I mean,
They apply for a
Sales.
new address. We've seen it because they'll come in, they'll apply for a new address because they have a third property there and somebody's now living in it. And then it comes to dawn.
basically, it's just kind of, we're doing these whenever we find out people have them on the property.
Well, and the whole idea here is that we don't have enforcement. We don't have somebody go out,
And
you know,
that's
and,
where I'm getting at, is how are we gonna enforce all of this?
well, the
I mean,
idea
yes.
by so the whole thing is the county commissioners are tired of after the fact
Right.
PUDs, right? So by making it 4 times the normal,
No,
right?
I understand all that, but, what I'm saying is, because Montezuma County doesn't have like a building department or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of these people are just, you know, I mean, for instance, my home, I have a shop and I have a house, so I've got my 2 buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, also in the back of my house, I have a bar, they're
Mhm.
built out of a silo. Now, if I hook that up to the bathroom, I'm out of compliance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'm not going to.
Right,
you
no,
know, But I'm
yeah.
just saying, and I see people that are doing this. I have a neighbor that has, you know, he's got his RV hooked up, his wife was in an accident and he built her a tiny shed,
Mm-hmm.
and then now they've built their house. So in theory, he's out of compliance because he has 3 things hooked up, so, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, but what I'm saying is that, you know, this person didn't know because there's no building department where you have to have a plan or, you know, an application. So I guess my biggest deal is just, you know, how are we gonna find out about this? Do we need to get in contact with the realtors? You know, for
Which
when
is-
they
those are
list
the
a
things-
home.
yeah.
Title companies, I mean, a title company should be somewhat liable if I go and buy a piece of property and it has 3 structures on it, and they sell it to me as everything's fine. I mean, in theory, the title companies are responsible for that because they're supposed to check into it
Well-
before you close on a home. So, I mean, there's a lot of,
I agree, there are a lot of gray areas to it, but the whole idea here is we don't have enforcement, so
Right.
we're trying to pull people into
Right.
compliance by their own fruition
correct,
to keep them, and by saying, if you don't do it within the year, it's gonna cost you a whole lot more money if you
Right.
get caught,
no, I
right?
totally understand that.
And so we're just trying to get them to, we're trying to get
Volunteer.
voluntarily get themselves into compliance. At the end of the day, when somebody sells a property, it's, the realtor has a requirement to tell the purchaser of any issues that they have,
No, I
right?
understand.
But then the purchaser also has their own due diligence responsibility to call the planning department and ensure that this property is within compliance. Within Montezuma County, it is you're required to understand the land use code so that you are in compliance with it on your own property. We don't, it's a self-enforcement, if you will. But to your point, Mike, this was a call to action from the county commissioners. They asked us to find a way to reduce after the fact PUD applications. And we, without just saying, you can't have them anymore, right? This was our proposal to meet their standards while also keeping it an available option.
They're not
That's what
asking
I-
us to justify it, they're just saying do it.
Yeah.
Are there any other ways to give people an economic incentive to follow the code? In other words, there's an application fee, and that's the fee you're talking about, correct?
All, what I'm talking about are all fees associated with the PUD application, which is, I don't, we talked about it last time, but it's per building, right? How much is it
Right.
per building? 2,500?
No, it's not
Or
that much. It
1,200?
just, it depends. It's kind of on the same scale as a minor, moderate, or major subdivision.
Okay, but just for frame of reference, 3 buildings.
So
What-
yeah,
what do you
you're
th-
probably looking at $2,500.
So right now, as it is, a 3-building application is gonna cost them $2,500 at somewhere around there, right?
Plus there will possibly be surveying costs as well.
Yeah, surveying costs, which we can't charge
We
4
can't-
times the
No, we
surveying
can't.
cost, but
We don't have any of that. but they will have to do
2,500
that
times
too.
4, that adds up quick. You know, that changes a $2,500 application to a $10,000 application just by not complying, right? That's the financial incentive that we originally looked at. It's kind of like the fine fits the crime, if you will. You know, a variance is $100 for a setback, for, an outbuilding setback. Well, it would become, obviously not in this proposal, but it would become $400. That's less of a flagrant violation than putting a whole nother residence on a piece of property, altogether. Does that make sense?
Yes. So the only possible fees to work with in the disincentive program that we're
Mhm.
talking about is the fees to apply for the PUD.
Not necessarily. If they don't get approved, say they're brought to the board, they're not approved. After a lengthy process with the county attorney, they can institute liens and $100 a day fines that add up incredibly fast. So that's an extreme version of it. But that's initially the incentive is the application fee, right? We can't just institute fees for not being compliant without them trying to become first compliant.
For properties where the additional dwellings are permanent, they can't be moved off without destroying them. Are there very many of those cases, or are there usually a case where there's one permanent residence and then additional semi-permanent or temporary residences in order to do the lease rental or overnight or whatever?
I think if it was, I don't know for sure, but I would say that if they built a large a permanent residence and then go to build a second permanent residence, they're likely gonna have to apply for a secondary, septic permit, right? Which then if they do a third in that same nature, that's when they would be out of non-compliance, and which would raise a red flag with Dawn. I can't say indefinitely that there are not 3 permanent residences on some pieces of property. I don't know those statistics, I just don't know.
It's probably 50-50 on if they have something more portable than not.
As an incentive, is it possible to look at annual taxes as also a way of incentive? And I would only be asking the question about permanent residences because you've changed the property such that you can't go back practically. And so it becomes permanent, and so if someone chooses to make permanent changes to their property and then ask for forgiveness, is it also an alternative to say, well, since you decided to do that in a permanent way, the county can impose an annual tax penalty on your property that you will live with and will follow the property from then on?
We can't do it through property taxes because those are governed by the state.
Okay.
I mean, if you came up with some other, called it something else or made it be an annual fee or cost or something, you could, but I don't know, that's getting more legal than we can handle.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to brainstorm here, trying to find the limits of what you were allowed to deal with. And so,
I think this is gonna be hard enough.
I mean, I see what your understanding though is what applies here? How far do you take it, right?
Right. And we do notify the assessor's office that they do have 3 residences on there. Now, what and how that gets evaluated,
Yeah.
who knows? Theoretically, yeah, the improvements to the property should go up dramatically. That doesn't always happen.
Right.
Just like the new bill last year, I believe it was, don't quote me because I don't deal with that, but any mobile home under $28,000 valued cost is 0 for tax purposes. Consequently, it's 0, so that's all that's on the property. Well, now the land's worth $600, so they pay $5 for property taxes. Even though there's a house and a family of 8 living on it.
Right. Or there's 3 of them that, 3 individual pieces.
Tiny homes, whatever these park models, whatever they call them, anything with a VIN number, they don't get assessed.
They don't count.
So the state's not helping us at all. All
So
our property
because of that-
taxes are just going down and down and down in valuation and what can and can't be evaluated, so.
Well, and it's not, I don't know that the commissioners are looking to fleece people, right?
No,
I think it's more of, we have a land use code, everybody abides by it. If you don't, then you need to. Because of that, this is one specific aspect that they've asked us to address, and the only way to incentivize effectively, I think, is to give said grace period, let them bring themselves in, and then at which point, you know, if they're gonna take their chance, they take their chance.
With
I don't-
consequences.
With consequence, I mean, and that's why we made it 4 times, not 10. 10 potentially bankrupts people, right? Whereas, you know,
For the
4
PUD,
times, 4 times it can be, it hurts, but it's manageable. There's incentive there. That's how I approached it anyway.
And I think this is the model for, the infractions on the lot line. You know, there's other things that we're gonna have to,
So I think that's a really good point. That was the other thing. Initially, it was talked about proposing any and all infractions of the land use code this way. And we thought that it would be a massive can of worms to do it all at once. Whereas this, you roll out one at a time, you know, you tweak things as they go. This is the one that was specifically drawn to our attention by the county commissioners. This is the one we address first. But at some point with the intention of rolling out additional infractions.
Have you gone over this with Ian to make sure that it's all legal and everything?
No, this is literally, this is a very
This is
rough draft,
This is draft.
rough
This is
draft
Well, maybe
proposal.
we need to get with Ian and, you know, sit down and kind of go over some of it with him just to make sure. that
We'll do
So,
that
I mean,
with
I
the
think we're-
specifics,
I think
but
we're, you know, I don't think this.
we just have to give them a general guideline and a direction that we're leaning and proposing.
Right now, they're just wanting some guidance.
Some
yeah,
ideas.
that's it. We're not to the point of crossing Ts and dotting Is yet. Yeah.
And we're not, I don't even know that we would be involved in the
That'd be
very,
county
very
attorney-
specific
county attorney putting the
logistics. This is,
A proposal.
the idea here tonight is presenting the proposal, and then if we want it to be presented in front of the county commissioners, we can make a motion to do so and vote on it. Then it, I think I have to go do it, right? Didn't you say that,
It'd be a
Don?
good idea.
Yeah.
You are the chairman.
Yeah, so then I would go present this in front of the county commissioners as a general outline of what we're thinking.
And what you tasked us to do.
Yeah, and answering that call to action from them. That's what tonight's proposal is. Now, if we don't think this is the direction we want to head, or we want to be, you know, take things out, we can do it again next month. But at some point, they're gonna want it, because it's already been a few months.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with your rough draft. We're not bound, you know, into it. It gives us room to breathe as these things come up, you know, to attack once a month and, you know, in our meetings. And I'm good with what you've got written down.
Okay.
On that note, I'll just make a motion that we accept this as a rough draft to present to the OCC.
Okay.
I'll second
Hang on.
it. No. Sorry.
Paperwork.
Can't write that fast.
The county attorneys will get enough of their,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Pencil
gonna
whipping on
cross the
it.
T's and, yeah.
It'll probably look pretty different by the
Right,
time
this-
it's
yeah.
Yeah,
done.
this single page is probably gonna be 4 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
if not more.
More.
Okay, seconded.
Who seconded?
I did.
John did.
Of the whereases and everything else that goes in there.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, it has to be fine-tuned, and then it has to go to the public.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
There's,
Still-
there's procedures and steps.
At least one meeting, if not two, so,
Yeah,
along with I don't know, there's several other items we can clean up.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
you wanna call-
excuse
Sorry,
me,
go
now,
ahead.
in this proposal, one thing I see that we didn't address and we talked about before is how we're gonna get it out to the public. Is that something that we should recommend to or not?
We'll get with Vicky and cover all bases.
So I-
The realtors,
Letters,
yep,
individual letters.
board of realtors.
Yeah, because when I thought about that as I was writing it,
Uh-huh.
but I considered that that's logistics, and there are probably very specific requirements on who we have to tell, how we present this to the public,
Okay.
right?
Well, it'll hit the airwaves, the newspaper and all that when we have our
I'm sure it will.
open public
But,
meeting
yeah.
for it.
But I
Of course,
do-
in an open public meeting, the notices still have to go out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was veering away from logistics just because it was getting into that crossing your T's, dotting your I's thing.
Okay, we don't need to address that then.
Yeah, this was just the general
All right.
surroundings of it.
You ready
So-
for a vote?
Yes, please call the vote.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch,
I abstain.
Commissioner Neergard.
Aye.
Okay.
I need a reason?
For the abstention?
Yes.
I'm not knowledgeable enough about the subject.
Okay.
All right.
Vote
And again,
was,
this is the model, I think. And then we address, like I said, the
Well, yeah,
lot
because
line
we never know how the
differences.
commissioners are gonna
This
react.
is true.
I mean, before they said, well, let's just do a change to 1 acres in the county, and so it was gonna be small, and then they're the ones that jumped into the Dolores River Valley, and that was a train wreck. So you never know
Commissioners were like,
where and how they're gonna take it, but this'll get them thinking and the ball started.
Something they can chew on.
yeah, all we're doing here is we're upholding the request that they asked us for. I mean, if they want more detail, they'll come back and ask for more detail. Or if they want specifics in there, or those kinds of things
Right.
would likely go to the county attorney at that point anyway, once they,
Yeah, and if he sees something where this is gonna be hard to sell, no matter which
yeah.
wording you use, then it may get
That was kind of my point.
detoured at that point.
Yeah, we may get through this and it dies after one step.
or they will
But
ask
they
you
they
to
do
come
want
again.
they do want some penalties for after the fact stuff, and this is the most impacting
Yeah.
item that we really have.
Gerald caught me at the grocery, or at the gas station. He was pretty hot under the collar about where we at. We gotta get done. Hang on, Gerald.
Well, it can be
That's
presented
because they
as
keep
is.
showing up by his
Yeah.
property.
It could be presented as is, and then, they would have recommendations for you to come back to the drawing board and things like that, so.
Yeah, it's not good. Any other discussion?
That's all I have.
That pretty much cover that one.
Okay.
That's good.
Entertain a motion to.
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. That, Moore one gone? The one that got continued?
They are definitely not always this early.
Hang on.